The forbidden libraries of Alexandria's survivors, we all know the story. The great Library of Alexandria, a beacon of ancient knowledge, was destroyed, burned to the ground, taking with it priceless scrolls and centuries of human wisdom. It's a tragedy that echoes through history, a symbol of loss and a dark age that followed. But what if that's not the whole story? What if I told you that the destruction of the library wasn't the end, but the beginning of one of the greatest secret operations in human history? Imagine the scene. Alexandria is in chaos. Smoke chokes the air, and the heart of the intellectual world is a blazing inferno. Most people saw only destruction. But a small, dedicated group of scholars, librarians, and patrons saw something else, a desperate last chance. While others fled or mourned, these unsung heroes risked everything. Under the cover of darkness, dodging patrols and navigating the pandemonium, they launched a covert rescue mission. They didn't save the building, but they saved its soul. They smuggled out what they could. A scroll of Euclid's geometry tucked into a merchant's caravan. A partial manuscript of Aristarchus's heliocentric theory hidden in a clay jar. Fragments of plays by Sophocles, poems by Sappho, and medical texts from Hippocrates, all thought to have vanished forever. These weren't grand, intact collections. They were charred, torn, and incomplete pieces of a magnificent puzzle. But to these guardians of knowledge, they were more precious than gold. This wasn't a one-time act of desperation. It was the birth of a clandestine network. These survivors became the first nodes in a secret society dedicated to one thing: preserving what was saved and sharing it with those who would understand its power. They called themselves the bibliothecary, or the keepers of books. Their mission was simple in theory, but incredibly dangerous in practice. The salvaged knowledge began a long, perilous journey. From Alexandria, these texts traveled across the Mediterranean, hidden in plain sight. They were disguised as common trade goods, sewn into the linings of clothes, or memorized and passed down orally from master to apprentice. The network stretched from the bustling ports of Carthage to the quiet monasteries of Ireland, from the scholarly circles of Byzantium to the burgeoning centers of learning in the Islamic world. Each stop on this journey was a risk. One wrong move, one curious soldier, one jealous rival could mean the end of a priceless piece of history. The keepers developed codes, secret handshakes, and hidden symbols marked on doorways or traded in marketplaces. They operated in the shadows, their names lost to time, their only legacy the knowledge they protected. They weren't fighting with swords. They were fighting with ink and papyrus, waging a silent war against ignorance. Think about the impact. The mainstream story tells us that Europe plunged into the Dark Ages after the fall of Rome, and that ancient wisdom was only rediscovered centuries later during the Renaissance. But the bibliothecary bridged that gap. Their hidden libraries were the sparks that kept the flame of inquiry alive. Let's look at mathematics. When the Arabic numeral system and the concept of zero arrived in Europe, they weren't introduced into a vacuum. There were already hidden intellectual communities, nurtured by the keepers, who were familiar with advanced Greek mathematical concepts saved from Alexandria. These concepts, like the work of Archimedes on calculus precursors, made the adoption of new mathematical tools far more rapid and powerful. The seeds planted by the Alexandrian survivors were now bearing fruit. It was the same in astronomy. Ptolemy's model of the universe dominated for centuries, but whispers of an alternative persisted. Aristarchus of Samos, an astronomer from the Alexandrian school, had proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun nearly 2,000 years before Copernicus. His original work was believed to be lost in the fire, but fragments survived, passed down through the secret network. When Copernicus formulated his heliocentric theory, was he working from pure observation, or did he have access to these ancient forbidden ideas? The evidence suggests that these fragments, carefully preserved for over a millennium, provided the foundational spark for the Copernican revolution, and then there's medicine. The works of Galen and Hippocrates formed the basis of Western medicine for centuries. But many of their more advanced techniques, especially in surgery and anatomy, were deemed heretical or dangerous. The bibliothecary preserved these texts. In the hidden libraries of Baghdad, Damascus, and Cordoba, scholars like al-Zahrawi, the father of surgery, didn't just translate the safe Greek texts. They studied the forbidden ones, refining surgical instruments and techniques described in scrolls saved from Alexandria. These innovations then traveled back into Europe, laying the groundwork for modern medical practice. These forbidden libraries weren't grand structures like their predecessor. They were hidden rooms, secret cellars, and private collections in the homes of scholars, merchants, and even clergy who were part of the network. A monastery in the Swiss Alps might hold a hidden collection of Greek philosophy. A merchant's house in Venice might secretly harbor advanced engineering diagrams. They were decentralized, resilient, and almost impossible to eradicate. If one collection was discovered and destroyed, dozens of others remained, ensuring the knowledge would survive. The story of the bibliothecary challenges our entire understanding of history. It suggests a continuous, unbroken chain of knowledge passed from hand to hand in the shadows, rather than a history of loss and rediscovery. It shows that even in the darkest of times, there are always those who fight to protect the light of reason and creativity. The Renaissance, the Scientific Revolution, the Enlightenment, none of these happened in isolation. They were the culmination of centuries of quiet, courageous effort by thousands of unknown individuals who believed in the power of ideas. They understood that a book is more than just paper and ink. It's a vessel for a different world, a better future. The scholars who built the personal library of Leonardo da Vinci or the Medici Library in Florence were, knowingly or not, the direct intellectual heirs of the smugglers from Alexandria. Today, we face our own challenges with information. We have digital libraries of unimaginable size, but we also face misinformation, censorship, and the risk of digital decay. The story of the bibliothecary is more relevant than ever. It is a reminder that knowledge is fragile and that the act of preserving and sharing it is a sacred duty. It's a call to action for all of us to be modern-day keepers of books. The next time you hear the story of the great Library of Alexandria, remember the heroes who refused to let its legacy turn to ash. Remember the secret network that stretched across empires and centuries. And remember that the history we are taught is often just the surface layer. The real stories, the ones that truly shaped our world, are often hidden just beneath, waiting to be discovered. The fire took the building, but it could not destroy the idea. And that idea, passed through the hands of the brave, is why we know what we know today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the hidden corners of history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories you thought you knew. Let me know in the comments which part of this secret history surprised you the most. Until next time, keep questioning.